Welcome to Postcast Fish Talk. I am Rachel Post.
I'm Brian Post.
And we're here on episode 6, and we are joined with Cliff Pace and Tiffany Pace. Hey guys, thank you.
From the much warmer state of Mississippi.
Yeah, y'all are. I don't want to hear it. That's a personal decision to live up there. I know the fishing up there is awesome.
It is.
In the summertime, I do not still understand the idea of fishing through a hole. I just can't wrap my head around that. And I can tell you, the second time I had to dig my truck out of the snow, I'd be packing my stuff in it.
See, but I don't do. I can add clothes. I can add clothes upon clothes upon clothes. I mean, it was 30. It was like 27 this morning. I didn't even put my long johns on. I just had a couple sweatshirts.
Nice, pleasant 27.
It was nice out. The wind was
27 degrees here. They cancel school.
Yeah.
No. Now, Monday night, we're supposed to be -12 with the real feel of close to -30.
Does it really matter? We was talking about this. Tiffany was talking about this earlier today, and I was like, nobody walks outside in the morning and stretches and is like, oh, man, it's 10 degrees. I mean, there has to be a threshold, even for y'all, where it's just cold, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what's the number?
It has a lot to do with the wind.
Well, it depends on if you ask him or if you ask me.
I could vouch for the wind deal, but I mean, like, realistically, say next week you have 5 nights in a row where the low is like -10, right? And then you have a night where it's 2. Are y'all like, oh man, it's going to be 2 degrees? I mean, does it really matter?
There's no question about it. We're going to work then. Like the -10, we'll see what the wind's doing.
Going to work.
Oh heck yeah, yeah. If it's sunny and calm, I can keep my generator, my compressors going to about -8. With we got something called kill frost. Honestly, it kind of looks and smells like deer urine, like you would use for bait and deer. We put that in the guns, in the compressors, in all the hoses. You have to add it about every hour, just a couple drops, but it will actually keep the compressor going. And then we use our ice fishing heater in the job trailer. We put the ice fishing heater on the compressor pump in the morning to get the oil warm enough so it'll start. So we got the job trailer. I just rigged it all up. We got a 1500 watt infrared heater because everything we use is battery operated now. So, if it's 0 at night, the batteries aren't worth a hoot in the morning. So, yeah, we got it all set up with LED lights in the trailer, and we leave it plugged in, depending if we got power on the job site or not, and batteries are all nice and warm in the morning, and we go to town.
Innovation. That's the name of the game.
There you go. Right? That's right. Little different innovation than what you're doing with all your plastics and your cranks and everything, but.
Yeah, it's a little different. I will say, though, that is the one cool thing about the cold is you can combat the cold, right? Down here in like August when it's 114 degrees outside, the humidity is like 95 or 96%. There's no infrared solution for that.
Right.
But I used to do construction. I come from a construction background as well.
Okay.
I used to do commercial roofing.
Ooh.
So starting about end of June, we would typically just work at night.
Sure. You'd have to. One time in Crips,
that's about the only way you could survive it.
Yeah, I believe that. That's that's what I always say to everybody. A lot of my friends from down south, they're like, I can't believe it's but I can put layers on. Like I can dress appropriately. And
I know you say that. I understand.
There's not enough layers.
I'm with you. I don't think there's.
No.
I'm bopping around.
You said at 2 degrees you are going to work. That'd be a pretty hard. Yeah, that'd be a pretty hard push for me.
So
I went fishing when it's like that, but not driving nails.
Monday was -12. I think it was actual temperature of 12 or 15 degrees, but it was -12 all day. We had an 18-mile-an-hour wind, and I actually tried twice to send my guys home. Once at break and once at lunch, and they still made it all day. We threw over 300 sheets of plywood in 4 days on a big project this week. So very proud of them. And I'm like, you guys can go home, like take a break, warm up if you need to. But this is ridiculous. Then the one guy didn't come in on Wednesday when it was -1 in the morning, but it was calm. It was, it felt good. So I was excited about that.
That's the first time I've ever heard that statement. It was -1, but it felt nice.
It did. I know. I've been outside for 25 years, so I got a few screws loose.
Absolutely no.
Well, enough about the cold. Which angle do we want to start first? His baits or getting back to?
We do have to talk about that. I just got the new Arc. Arc just came out with new ice fishing rods. I just got my shipment about 45 minutes ago while we were eating dinner. So
sounds like you got the perfect weather for it.
Yep. My dad, the neighbor, my dad's 77. The neighbor down the road and his brother, they're all in their mid 70s, and they came and picked him up about 10:30. It was like a bunch of kids going fishing. They had the Yukon all packed full of sleds and different things, and they're hardcore. There's no shanty allowed with that group, and they were headed to Madison about an hour north to go stand on the ice all afternoon. So I haven't got a fishing report yet, but yeah, that's what we do for fun around here in the wintertime outside of work. So
yeah, Art didn't send me a sample of the new ice fishing gear to test. And
I don't think you need that down there.
no.
You might have needed it when you were in Texas last week.
Well, I wasn't fishing. It would have been a good scenario for it, but we were inside, nice and warm. It was a nice brisk, I don't know, 68, 69 degrees inside. It was just right.
Right.
There you go. So yeah, talking about your line of baits, I saw one of your videos a few nights ago when you invented, the pacemaker jig and the V&M jigs and stuff like that, and how you did that a decade ago. And you had a complete breakdown of how you designed the jig heads and everything, the process you went through. I got to tell you, it's kind of like a mad scientist. I'm jealous. And
well,
I want to know.
do.
I know, but where does it come from?
Honestly, I think it just kind of stemmed from passion for fishing. I've always liked to make things with my hands, and I've just been blessed in that respect. And then, when it comes to making fishing tackle for me is nothing more than just the desire to have a better mousetrap, right?
Sure.
I designed all those jigs for V&M, but I was actually, making my own jigs probably 10 or 12 years before I designed those jigs for V&M, just because, I'm picky. I'll just be honest. I am. When it comes to my fishing tackle, I'm not picky about my clothes. I'm not picky about what kind of gas goes in my truck, food, snuff, and fishing tackle. Way up there on the list of pickiness, right? And so when I was young, I can remember fishing was it was so different back then. It really wasn't. It was the same sport that it is now. We didn't have the internet, for one, so you couldn't sit there on your phone and you couldn't research and find, I want an 11 32nd ounce, some crazy size flipping jig with this exact specific hook and this and that. In today's world, pretty much if you want it and you're willing to look for it, it's out there. Right. Sure. I mean, there's so many brands and everything. I think all those brands were already there, but all that stuff is so much more visible now just because of the internet. But 20 years ago, that wasn't the case. We were ordering tackle out of a paper catalog or what we could find at our local brick and mortars, or maybe if you had, say, a Walmart or some other form of a box store in your area that carried a little bit of stuff. And, we would used to go buy, I would go buy like 5 spinnerbaits to make a spinnerbait. I want the skirt off of this one, but I like this head, and I like the front blade off of this one, and I like this swivel the best, and I like this black blade, this back blade the best, to make what was like my perfect spinnerbait, or for that scenario that, and when you're just fishing at home, you don't have it's many scenarios, right? It's right. Like when you start traveling over the country, you realize real quick that you carry and you store and you warehouse so much more tackle. But when you fish it, the same body of water or the same few bodies of water in a local area, that starts to get consolidated. But I started making my own spinnerbaits and jigs. That's when I grew up, down here in the lower Mississippi tidal rivers and the Louisiana Delta. 90% of the tournaments that I fished as a kid growing up, they were won either on a spinnerbait, a buzzbait, or a jig. Okay. And that's what I started making. And as I got into doing that, I got fortunate the first year I fished professionally. I won an event, and I went and sat down with my CPA before it was time to pay taxes. And he was like, man, you really need to spend some money. And I was like, well, how much? And he says, well, you could probably spend this amount and it would basically offset your taxes. And, you're either going to spend it or you're going to pay taxes and lose it. So if there's something that you would like that connects to fishing, you should consider buying it. So I'd always wanted a centrifugal casting machine, and I didn't buy it like with the intention of going in business. It was Cliff Pace's baits machine, and that was it. So I bought one and started making my own, silicone molds. And it's kind of people seen what I did and the word got out. That ended up becoming a business. And really that's what got me out of the construction business was, I got to a point where I was on tour full time and I was also doing, centrifugal lead casting and stuff while I was home. So, you do something for long enough and you kind of get a knack for it, just like you, I'm sure, are better at reading a tape measure than I am. And I guarantee you're better at putting on plywood when it's 2 degrees outside than I am. So that's kind of the history of what got me into making baits. But even to this day, the only purpose of making a bait, there's only 2 reasons to make a fishing lure. And that is either to make a better mousetrap, for lack of better words. So you have an idea, you say, man, this is a good bait, or this is a new technique. It could use some better baits. Or they're to just point blank honest, most of our fishing tackle that we have, it's made for one general purpose, and that's to sell. Right. I mean, that's the name of the game. I mean, most all of it's made with the intention of, hey, can I sell enough? I'm talking about your big manufacturers. I'm not talking about your Cliff Paces of the world. I'm talking about your big manufacturers. The bottom line at the end of the day, it does factor in. But for me, it's always just been about making a bait that I would rather have or fixing a problem. And I've went through all that with the lead stuff for so long. I took all that knowledge that I had kind of gained over the first 10 or 12 years of doing it, and that's what went into my pacemaker jigs. And honestly, I've not yet really seen a need to change them. I haven't ran into a scenario or saw any kind of innovation that really enables me to make them be any better. And that was what was neat about them being 10 years old now, is the fact that there's really not a lot of stuff in our world, in the fishing world, that has thrived for a period of 10 years. Everything moves and changes so fast, and it's us changing. It's not the fish. I grew up fishing with a cream floating worm, right? And I don't even own it anymore, but I guarantee you, probably not tomorrow because it's going to be too cold, but I guarantee you about March, I can go buy some cream floating worms and I can still catch bass with them. But we have new things come out. We want to mess with those new things, and everything becomes kind of a trend. But all of my soft plastics, and they're basically my Black Label family of soft plastics, is I just took baits that were baits that I used a lot of, but there was things about those baits that I just wasn't in love with. Little small things that I thought, if this was done differently, it would make it better. And I just kind of improved upon them in my mind. I think is a great word. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would disagree with me and say that there's something wrong with mine. And that's perfectly fine too. But I made baits that I wanted to fish with. That's what I've always done. And that's what's always worked well for me. I'm not chasing, something that I feel like is just totally based off of how many of them I can sell. I'm just making baits that I personally want to use because they work, and letting the business just go from there. And that's what's kind of built my entire, we were at a show last week in Dallas, and a guy walked up and asked me, he's like, well, how many different crankbaits do you make now? And I was like, I don't know, 70 or 75. And he was like, colors? And I was like, no, that's models. And he was like, well, how? And he asked a good, legitimate question. He was like, well, how do you find a need for 75 different crankbaits? And I told him, I was like, well, I don't necessarily use them all at the same time, but there is a set of scenarios where every one of them kind of has its place. And the crazy thing is I've got like another 20 or 30 of them in between my ears that I want to make now. I just don't have time. So I guess that'll be the next 3 to 5 years of my life. But, everything for me, bait wise, you hear people talk about fishing tackle and you hear the word like niche bait. That's a great niche bait. In my opinion, all of them are niche baits. Okay. There's no such thing as a bait that's not a niche bait. Every bait has a set of circumstances where it works the best and has an exact set of circumstances that it doesn't work in. I think the difference between like you and I is it's kind of going back to what we were talking about a while ago. You don't obviously if an angler fishes a select few bodies of water, then does he need to warehouse and carry all 75 of my black label baits? No, that's not even reality. But throughout traveling all over the country, I have found a use for all of them and a desire to have all of them for different scenarios. But I mean, that's pretty much where all this is kind of just went. I really didn't even intend for it to go this direction or get as big as it has. But I'm thankful for that it has. I feel really blessed to be able to do what I do every day because it absolutely is. It's a passion driven deal.
That's cool.
So, it's the cool thing about it for me is, man, I can have anything I want. If I wake up at 2:00 in the morning and think, oh, dude, I got an idea to make a new anything. I mean, if it's made from wood, lead, or soft plastic,
you got it covered now. Yep.
There's nothing standing in my way of making it and having it for my own personal use.
Right.
So, of those 75 models of crankbaits that you have, how many times have you woke up at 2:00 and said, I got this idea, and then a week, 2 weeks, 6 weeks down the road, it's a dud and you scrap it?
A lot of them, like I woke up at 2:00 and you can ask her, like I wake up at 2:00 and get dressed. If it's that good of an idea, like I go do it right now.
Well, that's what I mean. But how many times has that not panned out where you put a lot of effort into it? And it's not
20. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say really that there's ideas that don't pan out. It's just how much time do you devote to get it right? So
sure.
Prototype number 1 is about a 95% fail rate. So, I mean, maybe a better way to answer that is like 5 years ago, I made a bait called a Little Cliffy, and it's a little bitty small balsa side, flat, kind of flat, not totally flat. But it's a real small profile. So kind of going back to like making a better mousetrap or problem solving, this is the time of year where we live, again, we're not fishing through a hole. We use really small balsa baits when I was growing up in the wintertime, little tight action, small profile. You don't want a real big bait, don't want a lot of vibration. But the misery of those baits was not that they didn't catch fish. The misery of those baits was being able to cast them. Real hard to cast. Used to throw a lot of crankbaits back then on a spinning rod. And I wanted one that was that same characteristics, small, tight action, but that I could put on my regular 7-foot cranking rod, right?
Yep.
And the Little Cliffy, I don't know, I probably built like 30 or 40 of them, different versions, maybe 50 of them, and probably fished with it for like 2 years, all those different versions until, I finally settled on it. They're not all that involving. I've actually gotten some that like the second or third one that I've made is like perfect, but I don't ever just make one. So the process basically, there's a few different variables if you're talking about just a balsa bait. So the first thing you got to do is decide what kind of body shape you want. Okay. That's kind of a set in stone thing. In other words, if you want to make a 2-inch fat bodied square bill, it's going to be 2 inches long and it's going to be round, because if it's not 2 inches long and it's not round, you're no longer making a 2-inch fat bodied square bill. So you make you a template that makes your body, and you cut you out, you produce you some blanks, or, you understand what I'm saying? Just a just the balsa form, right?
Yep.
And then now you have some options. So now you have the ability to put less or more weight in it. You can put the weight in different locations, more towards the front, more towards the back. And you can also make it with, various different size lips. So, maybe say change them by the width and length of say 32nd inch at the time. And you also can kind of alter the lip angle, right? How steep is the lip? So if you have the body of the bait, at what degree does the lip come out of the body of the bait or the nose of the bait? And then you have where the line tie is. So you take those 4 or 5 variables that are going to be used to make that 2-inch fat body balsa bait that we're talking about perform the way that you want. Oftentimes what I'll do is, I'll start with a weight. And once I say, okay, this bait has the buoyancy that I want with this exact amount of weight in it. So that's a done deal, set in stone. And then it becomes, maybe where the weight goes and where the lip angle is going to be and how big the lip's going to be. And a lot of times what I'll do when I'm prototyping is, and this is a good tip for a lot of y'all that are into the little cult thing of building your own crankbaits. When I make prototypes, a lot of times I'll make the lip a little bit bigger than what I feel like it needs to be, or whatever I feel like the largest lip size I want is where I'm going to start with. And then when I take it to the lake, if I'm using G10 or Lexan, I can take a pair of snips, I can take some sandpaper, and I can start sizing that lip down until all of a sudden I hit that perfect action that I want. And then I'm not making 40 different versions with different size lips. I'll just take one and size it down. But that's the normal process of designing one of these. So yeah, to make 30 or 40 variations of it before you have that one that you feel like is perfect, that's pretty common.
That's crazy. So now, too, I have tied on multiple different models of your crankbaits, and I have yet to ever have one that doesn't run perfectly true. And I know Tiffany is always tuning them. You always hear the old school balsa guys talking about you would buy 10 balsa crankbaits, one would go left, 2 would go right, 2 would be okay, and those are the 2 you would use out of the 10. How can you get yours? Is it through the tuning process? How do you get every one of yours right out of the package is perfect?
Probably those guys that were buying those 10 baits, a lot of the ones that ran left and a lot of ones that ran not right, they probably could have tuned them.
Sure.
Back then you kind of had you had Bagley's and you had Sisson. Those were your 2 main balsa bait manufacturers. Those are the brands that I grew up with that got me hooked on using balsa stuff and got me to eventually into making my own. But they did not actually physically hook the bait to a rod and reel and cast it and adjust it or tune it before it was put into a package and sold. And that is something that we do. It does take a lot of time, but it's the only way I know how to do it to ensure that when a customer buys one of our baits that, it's tuned, that he's going to be satisfied with it. And even still, I'll be the first to admit that it does happen. But, occasionally one will slip through the crack. I had a gentleman today that sent me a text. It's probably the first time in 2 or 3 years. And he said, man, I got one of your baits and it runs just a little bit to the left. And I'm not sure what to do. Right. So I caught him and walked him through. He was actually still on the water fishing and walked him through exactly how to tune it. And within a minute's time, he had it where he was perfectly satisfied with it. He learned something. But I mean, we put all those things in totes to carry them, to tune them. And when you're taking them in and out of those totes, I guess maybe one just, I don't know, something happened. But nobody's perfect. And I'll be the first to admit that. We don't make a perfect bait. Nobody that says they do is not a liar, but we do try our absolute best to put out a product that is, as user friendly as at all possible.
Oh, absolutely. And the quality is mind blowing. I watched your one video you did, the behind the scenes. It was about an hour long, but it's one of the most amazing videos ever on how the process of going through and how many times you touch each one of those crankbaits, from getting the carb to cutting the bill to the paint job. And
it is. It's a very, very, guys all the time ask me like, man, what makes your bait better than a standard $9.99 plastic crankbait? And what you're talking about is exactly, what. And we do occasionally have guys that, that question what our price is, which our baits, most of them are $17.99, which in the handmade balsa bait world is a really good price point compared to most other guys that are, 25 or even more than that per bait. But man, it just takes a tremendous amount of time, and you have to kind of be mindful of all the little details. That's the one thing that's bad about making balsa baits is there's no plan B. If you put one together and the lip is a little bit crooked, or if I'm painting one and, something happens, then everything you've done up to then at that point was just a waste of time, because that one is now officially garbage and you might as well just start over. There's no salvaging them or, being able to rework them or fix them. But that's just part of the deal. And, we've not yet figured out a good use for the ones that don't run straight. But I'm thinking like a nice little like balsa wood barbecue type deal is a good. We've been saving them for like the last 2 years, so I'm up to maybe 500 or 600 that.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they're like the bad children of the bunch that won't run right. And what's crazy is some of them, like, because I want to analyze them and figure out like where did I go wrong on this one. Some of them look perfect, and
really?
they still won't run straight, and I don't know what causes that. I think a lot of it has to do with wood density. I've been doing this for long enough now, and that's a variable that nobody can control. But you talking about like those older guys that used to talk about buying 10 crankbaits. You hear them talk about how they would find like that special magic bait, and you don't hear that about plastic baits. You just don't. But I actually had a few of those from when I was young that were just for whatever reason. It's like a fish would go out of his way to eat this one particular one. You safeguard those. You just only fish with them like during tournaments or whatever the scenario might, or when you really need to catch a fish, you break out the best of the best, right? And I think that just like how some of the ones that look perfect won't run, I think the same thing is what generates that occasional magic bait.
Sure.
And I don't think you can duplicate it. I don't think it can be duplicated by hand or by machine. I think you're just dealing with something that, has its own characteristic. But that's what makes them neat. That's what makes them cool. We do our absolute best to make every one of them identical. But at the end of the day, every one of them is different.
Right. We deal with that with some in the I had to talk with a truss engineer not too long ago on a project. We had to make a slight modification on the job site. And he brought us out what looked like a normal 2x4. And he says, no, this is computer stress rated. Like, what are you talking about? He goes, all the lumber that we put into our trusses for certain members of the truss for structural purposes is computer stress rated. I wonder if you'd ever be able to figure out how to scan your balsa when you buy it and get the right one and maybe make all kinds of magic baits. Well,
we do actually sort it by weight.
Do you really? Okay.
We do. So like when we buy, material and it comes in, it's just for easy math. Say I bought, say I have a bundle of 100 sticks of material that we're going to size down and run into bodies. We'll weigh it once it's all sized the same, so that you're not dealing with that as a variable. We'll weigh it out, and I have certain tolerances for the wood that the wood has to be inside of by weight to make every model we make requires a certain tolerance as far as the weight of the wood is concerned.
Okay.
So we're kind of doing that already.
Okay. All right. So is there a magic scrapbook, written down with all the formulas, or is it all in your head?
A lot of it's in my head, which is probably not a good thing, but I don't know that. I don't know. I say that we have a lot of it, like a lot. I mean, all my templates are hard aluminum templates, right? So they are what they are, and the size of everything that's rough cut. And then I have templates for all of my, inserts and all. So the main thing I think that's in my head is the painting. I paint all of them.
I was to say, I've heard that you paint every one yourself.
I do. I paint every bait we make myself, and I typically install the lips in every bait that we make myself. That's where a bulk of my time goes, and and Tiffany does a lot of the tuning, and I'll help tune a lot of times. If we make a new bait, I always like to try to help her tune the first batch, because that gives me the opportunity to touch, hundreds of them that are the same, and see if there's, any discrepancy there. Are they, in other words, so once I go through that process we was talking about earlier, where I've built the 40 different versions and I've settled on one, then I take that one and I say I go make 500 of them, right? And they're all different colors. That first batch, I really like to be a part of tuning it, because I can touch hundreds of them at that point in time. And as I'm tuning them, I can compare them to what, and I know that's the one thing about me being the one that's designing it, is I know what I want it to feel like. I know how I want it to swim. Tiffany wants it to swim straight, and that's great. And
Right.
she doesn't understand the parts of it that I necessarily understand, but she's learned a lot now. She's been doing it with me full time now for long enough that she has learned a lot about it, and will actually come to me and be like, hey, I think you should look at this or that or whatever. And that's the other thing, beautiful thing about hand tuning everything that we make, is it keeps everything very consistent, because if anything's wrong with it, we know, right? In other words, if a batch, and we actually did, I threw away an entire batch of like 600 baits the other day, and it was my fault. We have two lips that are very, very similar in size, and I put the wrong lip in them. It was my fault, 100%.
Oh, no.
Tiffany went to tune them, and she was like, these don't swim like the last time we made these. So I went and tested one of them, and I was like, yeah, you're right. So, back to the shop, get out, a micrometer and look. And then it took me a little while to realize that I'd actually put the wrong lip in it. So all those became scrap lumber. It was painted real pretty,
The pretty scrap lumber that's side of the Mississippi. I like it.
Yeah. And, it was right before Christmas, and everybody was like, oh, you should use them for Christmas tree ornaments and this and that. Man, I'm all for burning them. If I put that much time into them and they don't work, I want them to suffer at least some.
Sacrifice.
Absolutely.
That's crazy. That's got to be heartbreaking to get that far into them and then realize that with that kind of quantity. It's
just the nature of the job. No different than you're talking about. Y'all had to make an adjustment on the fly. I used to do construction, and that's time out of your life to figure out how to move the project forward and how to move your business forward. It's the same thing for us. Mistakes happen. It doesn't matter what business that you're in. You just have to learn from them and keep moving forward. Those two lip boxes, by the way, now have huge Sharpie writing on them. So probably going to prevent that from happening in the near future again.
That's good. Yeah, you don't need any more of that. That's a lot of lumber to sacrifice in the burn right there. So last year you stepped away from the BPT and were in all 9 opens. And moving into 2025 with your exemption from a classic win, you are back on the Elite Series. How do you feel about that? Are you excited? Are you pumped?
I am excited to fish. That it's really the same thing we was talking about my tackle business, right? My passion for fishing is in that league. Okay. I fished the BPT for 5 years and definitely had some success there. One of them competed in Red Crest, and I don't know. It just wasn't the same. And I'm not saying there's anything bad about it or good about it. I'll be the first to say that I think every league out there could do a better job, and I don't aim that at anybody. I think that every league out there could improve in some aspect, just like every fisherman out there could improve in some aspect. So to sit there and try to throw stones at one or the other, I feel like it's just a waste of time. But I am excited to go back to bass, mainly because that's where my passion lies. I want to fish some more classics. There's just things there that I still want to do in life, and hopefully that'll all work out. There's things about it that I don't like, and we're not going to discuss those, but there's the passion of it for me is definitely better there. So that's where we're going. That's what we're going to do. I made the decision to fish the opens last year. I told Tiffany, I was like, look, however long this takes, I had no idea if it would work out in 1 year or 2 years or 5 years. I mean, when you take that step of faith, there's no safety net. There's no given known scenario, right? And I really wanted to qualify on my own, and I was going to be really close to doing that if it wouldn't have been for some fabulous lock masters up at La Crosse, Wisconsin. But it all worked out for the same in the end, and hopefully it'll work out well moving forward. But I am absolutely excited to fish the Elite Series again.
Very cool. And you guys kick off beginning of February on the heck are they? St. John's or no Okeechobee?
I have no idea.
St. John's.
Yeah,
St. John's.
We'll go first.
I think we go down the 15th. I think practice starts the 16th or 17th.
Yeah, they're like a week or two out. Or
Oh,
2 weeks
they're
after
the
us.
week after. Okay. All right. I don't know when we go either. She's like, the other day she told me, she said, we're leaving February 8th for Texas, right? I'm like, oh man, I better get going. I haven't even touched a single thing yet. I haven't even ordered any fishing line yet.
Are you fishing the open over at Clark's Hill?
Nope. No, we're not.
Dude,
doing
that was right up your alley.
I've never been. I've never been.
Yeah, but it's going to be like 3 degrees next week over there. I mean, you would have a huge advantage.
It's supposed to snow, I heard too.
Yeah, no redneck is going to win that tournament. I mean, you should call and see if you can get in that one.
I just get in there quick.
Man, that's a huge advantage for the northern ice fishermen to come fish it. It'll be just like ice fishing, but without the hole, right?
36 degrees. I don't even wear gloves. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 36 degrees. I'm looking for a place to build a fire.
Yep.
I guess you just gotta get used to it. She's the same way though. She would rather it be 85 degrees, and she's happy as a lark when it's 85 degrees. I'm over here croaking. I can't. I can't.
This time of the year, it's like you talked about. You hadn't even touched your stuff. It's that way every year, I think, for all of us. We stay blow and go all year long, and then at the fall in the fall, you're kind of like, man, get to be home a little while, do some things that you've been putting off because you've been traveling, spend some time with your family, and you enjoy the holidays. And then it's like nobody wants to do anything during the holidays, and then like it's January the 3rd, whatever the first Monday is after the weekend of New Year's. It's just like an explosion of rush. To get everything done for your first event. I really wish that we would start a little later in the year. I don't really see the need to start. The BPT starting like next week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really soon. Their first one's actually in January, and I talked to a good friend of mine that still fishes that circuit. He didn't even have his boat completed yet.
Oh wow!
And I don't understand why there's a purpose or a need to start these trails that soon. I mean, I think March is a great time to start because it's so difficult to get anything done prior to the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. And I was always so in Wisconsin up until I don't know 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you couldn't sport fish for bass, pike, walleye, muskie, any of that stuff. It opened on the first Saturday in May. So there was like 2 places around us. And, so I never, growing up, we never went bass fishing or whatever, pike fishing until May. Well, then I realized that you can catch fish in 35 and 38 degree water. And there was a couple river systems by me that were open year round. So then, there was times we were breaking ice at the boat ramp to get to the open water to go fishing. And we'd have 30, 40 fish days in 38 degree water. It was pretty crazy. But
I think those fish up there, they're just like you. They're accustomed to it.
Oh, yeah. They're way better than those Florida strain bass or pansies.
Absolutely.
He has sent pictures, before doing the opens when he could go fishing in the spring. He'd send me pictures, and he would have the icicles on his beard while he's out fishing because it's that cold while he's out in the boat fishing.
2 years ago, at right before Thanksgiving, we went gun deer hunting about 4.5 hours north, and it was kind of warm. It wasn't really cold. There wasn't any snow on the ground. The deer weren't really moving. So a buddy of mine that's about an hour away, he come over the night before, and we were hooting and hollering, having some drinks. And next morning we get up and drove about an hour south, and I've got flipping a jig up on the ice on shore, bringing it off and dropping it. We caught like 15 fish that day, and it was 36-degree water. And
I've
we
only had that
saw
happen.
3 deer.
I've only had that happen once. We fished a classic over on Hartwell, and the first one of the tournament, the place I started was covered in ice.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
the
it was
one
in-
Casey actually won when everything, all the line was freezing
yeah.
to the rods?
Yeah.
I remember
that's
watching
the
that one. Yeah, that was crazy.
That's the closest I ever got to ice fishing in my lifetime so far.
I'm telling you, I'll show you. I'll have to send you some pictures afterwards. I've got, if it's cold out, if it's 10, 15 below zero, we got checks, we got heaters, dude. You're in there in your sweatshirt, and I mean, we got a little grill going, making steaks and sandwiches, and it's pretty luxurious. It's not nearly now the trip in and out when it's
You're making it
15 below.
sound better and better.
Oh yeah, it's nice. You got a nice comfy chair in there, heaters rolling, no gloves. I mean, it's nice. Got the radio going. So
I'm not to manage with that.
Yeah.
You just got to get.
Yeah, it's the getting there part that worries me, right?
Yeah. The worst is at the end because you have to pick everything up. It's all frozen. You had to chip it all out of the ice, get it back in the ATV, the UTV, the slide, whatever you've got. And you probably had 1 or 2 or 3 beers, so your blood's a little thinner for the walk back. The walk back often is cold. So
yeah, the walk back doesn't sound as well. And the tent being frozen, and that's where you lost me. The chipping of the tent stakes out. Yeah, I'm done. I'm out. My tent would probably just
Stay
hopefully survive until the thaw, and then be recovered.
we used to go to a friend of mine, used to live in northern Wisconsin, Eagle River, right on the Eagle River UP, Wisconsin UP border. We'd go up there the end of February for a big guys trip. And we're talking 30 to 40 inches of ice. So we'd drive our trucks out there. We'd have the radios going, and we would go to shore and get all the lumber and different trees that had fallen down, all the dead wood. And we would have a bonfire half the size of a pickup truck on the ice. Yep, right on the ice. And the thing was, it was 10 degrees below zero. It would make about maybe a half inch of water on top of the ice. It was that cold outside, and the ice was that hard that it wasn't even melting through. Oh, yeah, we'd have a huge bonfire, fish all night long, catching walleyes and whatnot. And yeah, it was pretty crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So moving into 2025, what tournament are you looking forward to the most? What fits your style?
Man, I don't even take that approach anymore.
No?
No, I don't.
He wants redemption on the Mississippi, and he wants to not get locked out.
That's right. You guys are coming back up to Mississippi too.
Yeah. We are. And I've had some really good events there in the past. So I love the Mississippi River. That's what I grew up. That's
Sure.
The type fishing that I grew up doing. I mean, I'm basically fishing the other end of the Mississippi when I go fishing here. And believe it or not, it fishes extremely similar.
Does it really? That's cool.
It really does. Yeah. If you ever came and fished like Venice or the Chapala Basin or something, and you approached it the same as you would that up there, you would really be shocked at the similarities of it. Seasonal patterns are pretty much the same. It's almost identical. I love the Upper Mississippi. But we've got the one over in North Carolina. I can't pronounce Sound.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to that one just because it's one I've never been to.
Sure.
But I don't really try to pick them out. I like to fish them. Right now all I'm focused on is Florida. I'm not looking past Florida. I'm not.
Okay.
And I just do that because it keeps it from consuming me. I might like do some tackle prep and stuff. That's if I know I'm only going to be home for a couple of days between 2 tournaments or something, and I have some time before I go to the first one. I may take a look at the second lake and say, well, I know I'm going to, want this or that and blah, 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 and have that kind of organized, ready to go. But as far as looking at the fishing part of it, I really just like to take them one at a time. Even the ones that are back to back in Florida,
Okay.
To me, it's just a simpler way to stay focused on the task at hand.
I like that. So then you focus more of your efforts then on in basically real time. You've got 3 days of practice. So walk me through what your 3-day practice are. How you're going to break down that body of water, being there before or not being there before. Is there a difference?
There is, if you've never been there before and you go to a place like how do you pronounce it? Albemarle Sound, I think, is something like close to that. You may have to devote some of those 3 days to you.
Pascagoula
Pasquotank River and
Pascagoula
the
River.
album.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if I've never been there before, and depending on how well it's marked, some of your practice may not even to be devoted to finding fish. It may be devoted to navigation.
Sure.
So that could occupy some time. I know that was the case last year in the Open at Santee. I fished Santee a couple times in the past, but I never fished the upper lake. And I realized real quick why I never had fished up there, because it's like impossible to not hit a tree or a stump on that lake within, a 3 to 5 foot span. But after spending, but that's why I chose to fish it during the Open, is because I knew with the amount of boats we were going to have in it that it was going to spread out the best. The lower lake, it's really good, but a lot of it's kind of dead water. The upper lake just fishes a lot bigger because it's got so many more trees and so much more cover, especially the north end of it. But, a lot of my time up there was just simply spent once I found an area that had a population of fish. Now, what's the most, time, what's the best investment of time to actually be able to get there? What's the fastest way to get into this area and out of it? So practice can be a lot of different things. The main thing I'm looking for in practice over anything else, and I think that this is where a lot of guys go astray, and it's where I went astray a lot, in my younger years of practice, is I'm not really looking for like this magic bait type deal in practice. And I think a lot of guys get hung up on that. I'm just looking for where a bunch of fish live.
Okay.
Hopefully some of the right kind of fish. When you're fishing multiple day tournaments and you're looking in practice and you're trying to try different techniques, for lack of better words, or are they biting a green pumpkin jig better, or are they biting a black and blue jig better? To me, that's all a waste of time. And the reason I say that is because over the course of a 3 or 4 day tournament, the conditions are going to change. And yeah, they might have been and all of us, you can relate to this. How many times have you found a group of fish in practice doing one technique and then ended up having a great tournament on the same group of fish, but you caught them in a totally different way than you were fishing when you found them? So maybe in practice you had wind, first day of the tournament, it's bluebird slick. They went from biting a spinnerbait to biting a wacky worm, or whatever the scenario might be. So for me, practice is nothing more than being able to locate a bunch of fish. I do want to at least kind of have an idea of gauging what kind of fish I'm around. If I can see them, or if I have to catch some of them, I will. That's kind of always a last resort. But finding a population of fish, that's what practice is all about. And then the first day of the tournament, then I'll start making adjustments on better ways to catch them, for a lack of better words. But I don't like to put any more pressure on fish I find in practice than what's necessary. Once I find an area where I know there's a bunch of fish, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, well, I wonder if they'll bite this a little better, or if they'll bite this. I think that's very harmful to your tournament results. If you know they live there, leave. And then come back in the tournament when it counts. And then that little, underlying thought that you had is, I wonder if they'll bite this better. At that point in time, try it.
Right.
But that's what practice really boils down to for me is just, I'm just really trying to locate as many areas that are productive as I possibly can.
Yep. You don't need to win practice. I've won practice a few times.
Yeah, practice pays nothing. I think we've all won times. And it's amazing to me. You go to a brand new lake, and the first fish you catch the first day of practice is like a 9-pounder, and then you stay there for 5 more days, fish the event, and the biggest one you weighs like 2.2.
Right,
so,
right.
It's always been that way for me for the most part.
Your guy Chad sent me when you guys were working on before Hartwell. You were working on one of the new baits that you have on the back of the chatterbait, and you can drop shot with it and stuff. And he's like, he sent me a picture of it. He's like, hey, check these out. We got these coming up, blah, blah, blah. I said, man, those are really cool. I need to get me some. He's like, yeah, I'll hook you up. And then time goes by or whatever. A couple of days later, he texts me. He's like, hey, when you get these, though, can you take a picture of your practice fish? Because they're always bigger than your tournament fish. Because I need them for the website.
That sounds about right.
I'm like, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
He's a hoot. I love texting with him. He's a hoot.
Yeah, Chad's a great guy. Me and Chad have been friends for a long time. He's at the shop every day, helps me out a lot. He's been a tremendous amount of help to me, especially with the plastic side, of Black Label, and he's just became a good friend and has been a lot of help to us.
Yeah, he's pretty great. Yeah, because you guys were, if I remember right, last year's Classic in Tulsa, you were headed to buy your plastic machines, right? Or to get training on them or something, right?
I had bought them at that point. Yeah, they were. They actually were delivered to us while we were at Tulsa.
Okay.
And then I still had to build a facility to put them in and everything. We got all that accomplished and got everything kind of up and going about the middle of May.
Okay. Very cool. Are you going to have a booth this year at the Classic in Dallas, Fort Worth?
I'm not doing a booth just for Black Label. I know I'll have some Black Label product in V&M's booth. Definitely some Balsa and some of my soft plastics as well. I've got a good relationship with those guys. I've been, those are the jigs we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So it just makes sense to me rather than me having a Black Label booth. They want me to spend time in their booth.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to spend time in their booth. So if I get a booth for Black Label, then I'm just abandoning Tiffany there to watch that and oversee that. And then she's mad at me later. So we just figured out if I could just put it in the V&M booth, even if I can't bring as much, then it allows me to kind of be located there, help V&M and help Black Label all at the same time. So that's the plan for the Classic this year in Dallas. And we've done that in years past, and it's always worked out pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That's where we wound up meeting last year in Tulsa and stuff in the Save More Outdoor booth. So it was definitely
Yeah, and I talked to Joe the other day, and I think they're looking at if they have any available space, maybe putting some of my product in their booth as well. I haven't heard back from them and nothing set in stone yet, but we'll see how all that shakes out.
Gotcha. And then hopefully 2026, we're all working your booth for you and cheering you on in the Classic. So
that's exactly right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's the plan.
Well, maybe we have to leave these two behind. Maybe I have you out the opens. I win an open. You qualify for the Classic.
That would be even better.
I was. I won't complain at that point. I guess.
Y'all could manage. I have no doubt.
Rachel and I's got it. We got it.
I have no doubt.
I'm not worried. There's probably breakfast.
Yes.
After takeoff, and then to the booths.
You gotta have breakfast.
Yeah.
You gotta have breakfast. So.
The most important meal of the day.
It is.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Especially after
that's my problem. All I ever have for breakfast is coffee.
Black coffee. That's it. On the road. I take my kids to school on a like the other morning. It was really cold, and I said, well, we weren't starting until like 9 o'clock. So I told them I'd take them to school or whatever. So then we have to go to the gas station and get a juice and a chocolate long john. My son likes chocolate long johns, and Taylor gets who knows what, some kind of chocolate donut.
What is a chocolate long john?
Just a donut. You never had a chocolate long john?
It's not a circle. It's like a rectangle.
They don't call them that in Mississippi, I don't think.
No?
You know what he's talking about?
Yeah, it's a rectangle with chocolate.
I mean, I'm kind of a donut connoisseur type person. I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't need long johns in the South. So
well, you can get cream filled or no, not cream filled. Either way.
They don't call them out in the South because they don't need long johns in the South. So it's probably some
we got the same thing, but we call them something else. I can't think of the name. I'll get back with you on that.
So I have a question. It's kind of directed at Tiffany too. We actually got this question back on our last podcast, two podcasts ago. Our guest, Chris Kingery from 44 Tackle, turned it around on us. But you two are together all the time. You work together, travel together. Tiffany's backing the truck up, trailer, dropping you in. How do you handle that? How do you make it work? Everybody gets along smooth? Or I told him I try to push his buttons less when we travel than I do when we're at home, but
yeah, it works. I mean, my whole focus whenever we're on the road is trying to anticipate what he's going to do or what he's going to need and staying out of his way. And I can tell by the tone of his voice or how a day's been. And, you know, I just do what I need to do and
Right.
stay out of his space and be there when he needs me, or, you know, and I tune the baits while we're on the road and when he's on the water. And so I, you know, drop him in and pick him up and give him the least amount of stress as possible
Right.
is the whole goal. So
The least amount as possible, honey.
I told you
Yeah.
I push your buttons less when we travel than I do when
Less, just less. She says.
no, we take turns on the long trips up north and, you know, and driving, and we take turns driving. So
The driving part of it helps a ton.
Uh,
It really does.
even if it's not to rest, if it's just to stretch your legs and you sit different in the passenger seat,
Yep.
you know, and our what Cliff calls windshield time is our catching up on phone calls and doing social media and
Mhm.
everything that he don't have time to do but at the shop because he's working, you know, as soon as our feet hit the floor. I'm gonna get up and take a moment and go make coffee and let the dog out and
No.
and he is
Gone.
he gives me time. He stays in the bed until, but as soon as his feet hit the floor, he's like dressed and cranking up the truck. So
Mhm.
Yep, it's go time.
it's going from daylight to dark. So, you know, but yeah, we make it, we just sort of know what we need to do. And we sometimes we make a game plan at the beginning of the day and it's like, okay,
And
what
it-
do you need to
And
do?
it
What do I
has
need to
gotten
do?
easier. you
Yeah.
know. The more time we've done it, you know, together, the easier it's gotten. I think that, I mean, Tiffany's a lot better at backing the boat trailer up now than she was in the beginning. So
I'm working on it.
it's getting a lot better. You can do it. You just.
She got it.
And look,
I get
Tiffany's done took out a pump house with my truck. Serious, true story.
I
I
missed
believe it.
Ted's truck though. I didn't hit his truck or his
Well,
boat.
that's good.
Yeah.
She almost tore down a Burger King with my boat trailer one time going through the drive-through.
Now that was the first tournament ever.
Doesn't matter. Still fun.
I thought it-
there's been some moments, right? Let's just call it a learning curve.
Yep.
Lack of better words, but it has gotten better. And you know, now, I mean, having her with me is like, it's like an asset. You know,
Yeah.
it gives me the ability to really just focus totally on what I'm trying to do. She keeps a lot of the other little things, the day-to-day things that I would have to do. She keeps those beat off of me during those weeks when we fish, and that's a huge help for me.
Yeah, it definitely is. That's one thing. I've only been doing the open since 2020, traveling on the road. But that's one thing with being self-employed. I've tried different versions of turning my phone off, sending my phone to somebody else, having her answer the phone, kind of thing, and trying to figure that out so that, hey, you know, I invested a lot of money in this, my boat, my truck, my tackle, entry fees, my time. I want to be able to focus 100% on what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
And
And
I'll
you
tell you what, last year, I
you
did
should
not.
be able to.
Right. And last
You know,
year,
and honestly, that's why Tiffany works with me at the shop. I mean, that was the plan. That was the whole reason why,
Yep.
you know, she came to work with me, and we've tried to grow Black Label to where we have, is so that opportunity exists, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is, talking about an asset though, when you're done at the end of the day and wore out, you don't have to try to find a spot to dock your boat when everybody else is getting off. You don't have to do the awkward jump on the rocks to the climb to go find
Absolutely.
your truck. All you do is,
I'm here.
hey, are you here? Yep. Okay, perfect. Yep, I'm here. On the
Yep.
trailer, away you go. That's
It definitely-
nothing better than that.
It definitely makes life easier at times. It really does.
As long as they bring the truck back full of
With
diesel.
gas.
Yeah.
I have a tendency to come back after doing what I've done all day, and there's not.
And
much
then we
gas
have to
left
go
in the tank.
20 miles out of the way on the way home to find gas because we're not going to make it home because she doesn't run it right to the end.
No, I don't do that. I stay at the boat dock all day long.
Maybe on the way
She's
to the
working.
ramp in the morning, you should maybe stop and fill the truck up with gas.
Oh no, there's a lot of time it's 3/4 or full. Her and Heather are shopping.
Oh, we don't.
That's a lot of shopping burn up.
Oh, it's a lot of shopping. The truck is fuller when we go home than it was when we came. Every
Well,
time.
If you make the elites next year, Rachel could just stay at the dock and help Tiffany tune baits, and it'll save you a lot of money on gas.
Oh my goodness, that'd be a life changing.
Hey, in my defense, at least as far as what I do, I've only drove over the curb at Okeechobee. I haven't taken out a Hardee's or Burger
Drove
King or
over the curb
anything.
at Okeechobee.
Remember, you had to come apart. That the ramp at Okeechobee,
Oh,
the
yeah.
one that's outside of the lock and it's at an angle. I'm not. I'm good if I can back up straight, but that one is at a weird angle.
I know exactly what you were talking about. You have to go around the dike and go, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
And the ramp is like at
That
an
is a tricky
angle.
one.
Yeah, and I came back up and I up over the. I
What?
could just see him about lose it in the back.
Well, you know how the boat trailer's got those low profile tires on there. So she just up the curb all the way around the rim, and it was brand new. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, that was the Burger King trip. That was I thought I had given enough clearance around the curb, and I did not accelerate, but it hit it.
It knocked bricks off of it. Let's not sugarcoat.
It busted concrete. But he's such a patient.
People from inside the Burger King came outside to see, like, if a tree fell on the building or something. Yeah, it
But he never yelled. Huh?
The boat and the truck were good.
We
had to get a new tire, and I think eventually a new rim. But
it was one of those low profile tires too. But I haven't done it again though. I've only done it one time.
Yes,
it's easy to do. I mean, I did the same thing, not to that extreme, but I popped one going through a toll booth one time up in New York.
Those are tight.
Yeah,
they are, and if you, especially those low profile tires, if you pinch a curb or something with one of them on the sidewall, you're pretty much fixing to buy you a new tire. That's just part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it is the first time I bought a new boat in 2019, and Falcon drove to South Carolina to pick it up, and drove straight down. It was her, myself, my dad rode along, and what was it, 17 hours there. I drive straight through the whole way. Get there all excited, go through the paperwork, take a tour of the factory, hook the boat up, headed home. I make it like another probably 6-8 hours back. I'm like, all right, honey, I need to take
Now, mind you, we did not. There was no stopping at all. Sleeping. So this was the 17 hours there. Grab the boat and turn around and head back.
Yeah. So I get like another 6-7 hours on the road, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take a nap for a bit. Like, you want to drive? She's like, yeah. Well, she didn't tell me that she's never driven with a boat behind or a trailer on the interstate.
I've never pulled the trailer. Period. Not even on the interstate. Never pulled the trailer at all. This is a brand new boat through construction going up the mountains. Him and his dad were both asleep.
Yeah, and my turbo was acting up on my truck at the time. So I sleep for 3-4 hours. I wake up and she's like, just like death grip on the steering wheel. I'm like, are you okay? She's like, I've never done this before. It's so narrow. She's
you gotta learn somehow.
That's my trial by fire. Here you go. So she did great. And I'm like, oh, sorry about that. Like, you could rest now. I'll take back over. I said, I'm good.
Yeah, you gotta learn somehow.
Oh, I learned.
It's like teaching a little one to swim. You throw them in the pond. They'll kick and doggy paddle on their surface, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, or die.
We're supposed to get in before that and help them.
We got anything else?
No, I think that about wraps it up.
What open are you looking forward to fishing the most this year?
I'm really excited to go to Rayburn in the spring because there's supposed to be so much grass, and I love a rattle trap bite. But hopefully there's a rattle trap bite because there's no grass from what the little bit of talking to people and what I've heard. Like, it's very minimal in the grass this year. But I've been to Rayburn a couple of times in the summer and fall, and I enjoy it. But I am also looking forward to a little redemption on Leech Lake. Like, I had the largies dialed in to potentially do a top 10 there, and I adjusted okay on day one, and I missed the boat on day two.
Leech is just a hard lake for that open format. It's just not a lake that really carries that amount of boats very well.
Well, we had that off day too, which probably changed everything.
Yeah, for the size of that lake, they're not everywhere. There's the east and west ends.
It's a very huge lake that fish is very small. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you ever get to tangle with one of the muskies that lives in there when you're up there?
No, I didn't catch any muskie when we were at Leech. I have caught a bunch of them in the past. I've caught a bunch of them on St. Clair.
Okay.
But I didn't catch any at Leech.
I caught my personal best there.
She did.
Yeah, she caught her biggest ever smallmouth there.
Smallmouth.
Oh, that's right. I saw that. Yeah. Wasn't that the same day it was so windy?
That was the practice where they sold the boat.
Yeah. Yeah. Another one of those you got to learn somehow things.
Yeah.
Next time I'll just jump off.
Right, just
I didn't get wet. It was bad. I don't ever want to do that again.
No, that was a Pretty windy day.
One of my buddies was talking to him a couple nights ago. He's fishing the Bassmaster team?
The Minnesota team trail,
Bassmaster team trail or whatever. They finished, I think, second in Angler of the Year last year, won one event. And there's a lake. It's not very big, so I won't blow it up, but there's a lake not too far from Leech, like a half-hour drive. And he said they're going there at the right time of year. He goes, it'll take 30 pounds and 5 smallmouth to win, if not a little more. Yeah. I guess it's
Woman
like the latest, greatest, top
Woman
secret.
Lake.
But you're not supposed to say it because we don't even everybody to go there.
Woman Lake. I know. I live in Mississippi, and I even know that.
Oh, well, he knows that. There you go.
Well, it's going to be on their schedule, so people will figure it out.
Fished there.
I've been to Woman Lake.
Have you really? I've not.
I have fished there. Yeah.
That's where I'm gonna retire to. We're gonna move up there one
I
day.
love it up there from like, I mean, I could be y'all's neighbor from like, I don't know, May the 1st until October. Maybe even
You get to November.
Halloween.
Yeah, you get to November. It's not too bad.
Yeah,
I mean, 15, 20 years ago when I used to plow snow, I mean, usually by Christmas we did, or I couldn't even tell you the amount of hours that we've been on the road plowing snow already.
We don't get that much snow anymore.
No, I mean, this year we've had like
2 inches.
Yeah, two and a half inches. Remember the one year we had 123 inches of snow.
Oh my God.
I think y'all fixing to get some more over the next week, though.
No, it's literally going right around us, like it parks around us. Yep.
I will say, y'all do have, you know, the northern part, the states y'all live in, Wisconsin, Minnesota, even all the way to, I guess, the Dakotas. That really is. It's a sportsman's paradise. It really, really is. It's so much. There's so much more opportunity up there to fish than what we have down here. It's truly crazy. And most, I guess, because y'all have so much water up there, it kind of distributes the pressure more. So that it seems like just about every fishery up there, you know, is pretty good when you compare it. It's as far as, you know, population of fish and the amount of fish you can catch. I'm not saying that's the place to go if you're trying to catch a 10-pound largemouth bass, but for just enjoyable, pleasant, fun days on the water, I love it up there. I absolutely love it up there. I'll be surprised if you know, if they don't have an elite on Leech coming up in a few years.
That would be cool. I think that would work out good.
Yeah, and I think it would be a lake that would be better suited for, you know, 100-boat size field.
Yeah.
But I don't know, you know, that place is just, that smallmouth fishing up there, it's like Russian roulette on that lake. You can go out there one day and feel like you catch 25 pounds, and the next day you don't get a bite. It's one of the very few lakes up north that it's a grinder type lake, but
they were stingy, crazy.
They're all big ones, you know.
Yeah. Last time I competed prior to the Open last year, last time I competed on Leech Lake for the NABC, smallmouth wasn't open. You couldn't fish for smallmouth.
Right.
Like if you caught one, you had to turn them loose. They were just establishing the population. And I talked to a few guys last year that, like they said, hey, you know, we found this, or I found this mega school. Like, yeah, dude, they're probably walleyes. He's like, no, I dropped the camera on him. He goes, they're all smallmouth. But he goes, I've spent 3/4. He goes, there's hundreds of them because I haven't caught one yet in 2 days of trying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, I found a few of them, and I thought they were walleyes, so I focused on a largemouth because I doesn't want to throw a frog in a swim jig. But yeah, that's it's definitely cool. Yeah, Minnesota says it's land of 10,000 lakes, and we've got probably close to double that in northern Wisconsin. But they're all small. You know, and that's the issue tournament-wise. You know, a lot of guys, northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, they're after walleyes, they're after muskies. Outside that, they don't care about the bass. Years ago, it's just finally come back around northern Wisconsin. Every resort and every tournament had to be a catch-kill tournament for bass because the bass were eating the walleye fry. Well, they're not. You had 25 people out there on Facebook yesterday, and they kept every fish they caught. The lake's not that big. You're going to fish it out if you keep that much pressure, you know, with the walleyes and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's pretty cool. And then the biggest thing is the infrastructure. You know, down south, we got amazing. I've never seen boat ramps like that. 500 trucks and trailers, and I mean, no problem. It's half full, you know, versus up there, you got 8 parking spots, and the 9th guy's out on the side of the highway risking his life parking his truck. So it's a little different, but yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, we'll just have to go your way in the wintertime and come back this way in the summertime.
I think that's the plan. I really do. Mm-hmm. Mississippi, Texas, Louisiana.
Yeah.
I don't think I would want to spend a winter in Florida. I just don't like it down there well enough. But any of that, anything from Alabama to Texas would suit me fine for the holiday season. And then I could see myself spending some summers up there where you are from. I do love it up there. It's some of the prettiest country I've ever seen. You know, we actually got to take a trip a couple of years ago and went up into Canada.
Sure.
Up above y'all. And I swear there's bass up there that have never seen a bait in their entire life.
Yeah.
It's, and it's endless, you know, I mean, it's just absolutely, there's lakes up there that are, you know, 8, 10, 15,000 acres. There's not even a road that goes to them, which is hard for a guy like me that lives where I live, where the pressure is the amount that it is on all of our lakes. It's hard to even fathom that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, I mean, I've spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours looking at Google Earth of that country up there. And there's huge lakes up there that don't have a road. There's no resort. It's like there's no human contact.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the ones I want to go fishing on.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to figure out some time in my life to get to spend some time on those bodies of water, because I guarantee you there's a bunch of them that are really special.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We did. It's been, well, I was senior in high school, so it would have been 99, 2000. We went, I went to Canada for 5 years with some buddies and different things. And yeah, and now we drove, it was only 2 hours above International Falls there. But yeah, the lakes that we were on were just, you wouldn't see another boat. I mean, and you would catch smallmouth. I think that one day we kept track, we caught 18-inch smallmouth from the time we got in the water early in the morning until lunchtime. And we had like 82 of them that were over 18 inches. That doesn't include the other 100 that were under 18 inches. It was just, it was every cast. It was, yeah, like you said, they'd never seen a person, never seen a lure before. It was, you could find a beaver hunt and catch 20 off the same beaver hunt. It was pretty cool.
Right. And so you don't, that doesn't exist. If you find that down here where we live, it's behind somebody's locked gate. There's no public access that offers fishing like that. Yeah. There's just not.
I was watching the new Kevin Van Dam fishing show, and he was with Luke Bryant. And I believe it was Luke Bryant's like private lake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need to go there. Like every one of them was over 7 pounds. Like the first one he caught was almost 9. I'm like, holy cripes! Yeah, we need to go there. My biggest fish ever is 7 pounds in Florida. So,
well, maybe you'll catch you a 10-pounder at Rayburn this year.
Yes,
that'd be cool.
Not during practice.
Not during practice. Not during practice.
Not during practice.
No, I'm gonna practice smart this year. I'm excited that there's only 4 tournaments. I feel like I can focus a little bit better on that. We got 3 early, and then May, June, July, pretty much I'm going to be home, which is our primary tournament season at home for a jackpot tournament. So my youngest 2 like to tournament fish and are into bass fishing. So find a Saturday tournament with one, a Sunday tournament with the other, and do more with those guys. And then we help host a big charity tournament. We've it's for Badger Childhood Cancer Network. And last year, Rachel and I were on the board. We spent all year with a team group of people in a team kind of committee trying to grow it. Prior to all of our involvement, it was like 12 to 14 grand a year we raised almost $40,000.
Gave us baits for that tournament.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Tiffany sent some up front. Yeah, we raised almost $40,000. So, and we wound up having big bag, and she caught one. So
I did.
Well, hey, it makes it even that much better.
Yep. She was pretty excited about that. So she made sure everybody knew.
Yep.
I got a school of fish fired up under a dock in like 2 feet of water. She didn't make it. I mean, she was 10 foot from the dock. They were so fired up, they'd hit the water and they came over and got
close enough.
Yep.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. And then she's just, I saw how big it was, and she's just, it's almost on the end. She's just cranking, drags going, crank. I'm like, stop, let me get the net. Yeah. It called out a fish as the second biggest one in the tournament. So
there you go.
I know. I'll take it.
Yep.
Some years in that tournament, it's like the one year he had, well, and even this last year, he had so many. I was like, well, I don't even need to fish. Like what he had, we probably didn't need anything. And he's like, no, but you can catch these. So that's why I did that day. 2 years ago, I had the first fish in the boat. He was having an awful day, like horrible day. I had the first 2 fish in the boat. I'm like, dude, like, come on, what are you doing? Like, we can't go to weigh in.
She helped the mood a lot.
It's only 3 fish weigh in. I was like, we can't go in and only have fish that I caught. Like, you have to step it up.
This is by 9 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't hit water if I fell out of a boat in the middle of the ocean. It wasn't going well for me. And yeah, So, but yeah, and then the one year, there's a section, and if they're there, they're there. It's worth going and fishing. There's like 3 docks, and it was first dock, second dock, third dock. I literally made 4 casts and had like 3 fish for 10 pounds in the boat. And it's like we started at 7. It's 7:20. She's like, I don't need to
Time to
fish.
go
Put the
shopping.
rod down and put the rod down and got back on her phone and Googled whatever the rest of the day.
Got this done. It's over
Yep.
with.
Yep.
Like, we don't even have to fish the rest of the day.
There you go. No point working when you don't have to.
Right.
Right.
Well, I guess we'll see them at the Classic. And then
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll make it with me, but I am coming to see you on the Mississippi. So I will be there.
We're gonna come cheer you on the 4th day for sure.
Yes.
Championship Sunday.
And that actually might be the day my daughter moves into college in lacrosse. So I think that might be the weekend, the move-in weekend. So
Oh, I'm not. I
That'd
don't.
be
My
great.
truck's broke. I can't haul anything. She
Yeah,
better be on the first floor.
We'll be there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we will for sure see you twice this year.
Absolutely.
Looking
Absolutely.
forward
Hopefully
to
more
it.
next year and
Yeah.
go from there. So awesome, guys. I really appreciate you hopping on. Hopefully you have time for
Absolutely.
dinner and probably gonna
Yeah,
hop
we'll have
back
to
in
do
the
another
shop.
one. We have to do another one of these one night when we're at the shop when everything's
Yeah.
not so loud and whatnot. I can give y'all kind of a walk through of the of my. I see all these guys that post their like fishing related man cave.
Yeah.
And I'm on like a whole other page when it comes to that. So
Yeah, you are.
maybe one night we can do one of the shop or something and show everybody kind of how the stuff gets made.
Yeah,
Heck
for
yeah,
sure.
that'd be cool.
But
Awesome.
we'll figure out a time to do it.
All right.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Well, thank you
We'll
guys.
see y'all. We'll see y'all in Dallas.
All right.
All right.
Yes,
Thank you. Take
thanks.
care.
Bye.
Thank y'all.
Bye.